Hello folks. So in this video I'm going to talk about callback in Plotly dashboard, which is a way we provide interactivity to our dashboards. That is, whenever an input changes, whether it is selecting a value from drop down or moving the slider or selecting a radio button, then an output should be changed accordingly, right? So example is like changes in graph based on input value, right? Consider an Excel sheet where if you have put some formula, then a change in input cell that you can encounter a change in output values if you basically change the input value in the cell, in a particular cell. So that essentially will trigger a change in all of the cell that depends on the that input cell, and the value will get updated automatically. So this is called a reactive programming, and through dash reactivity we can dynamically update any of the properties through a callback function. So in a nutshell, callback is a Python wrapper which depicts output as well as returns a specific ID component which it is expecting. Okay. So folks, this is Nitin, who is on a mission to democratize the artificial intelligence, big data, Hadoop, cloud computing, and blockchain to the entire world. And with this aim, I'm creating the associated content and publishing it on a periodic basis in order to make it available for entire community who wants to learn these modern technologies. So you can subscribe to my channel or press the bell icon to receive to keep on getting the latest updates regarding these hottest technologies of 21st century. So let's get started. The component we are going to use in this particular video, and as a matter of fact in our code, is a checkbox or a checklist. So essentially we are going to use these so that we can we plot the bar graph of associated checkbox value which we have selected. So essentially what it will do is we will provide this checkbox or checklist, and whenever we select a particular value by checking it, then a particular graph will be represented. And if we are selecting multiple checkboxes, then a multiple bar graph will be reflected. Okay, so you can see the list of these core components like checkbox, radio button, radio button, slider, etc. On a particular link, which is a Plotly dashboard link. So this is the link. Okay. And in fact, this is the complete link and the website you can visit to see the list of core components which you can include in your Plotly dashboards. So here's the lid. It's just opening it up, so you can see this web page. So this is the link. Okay, and you can see that we have drop down core component. Okay, so here's a snapshot of a code associated with it. Then we have a slider as well, right? We have range slider as well, right? So here you can see the range slider. You can select a particular range. Then you have an input value. You can enter any input values here. Then you can provide some text area as well. And then you can select any checkboxes. So here you can see that the checkboxes here, you can select this, you can unselect it, and the graph will be changed accordingly if you are plotting a graph, right? So this is kind of in a listed form, right? And if you select, if you want to select a checkbox inline, okay, so this is the code for inline. Okay, I will be using this inline checkbox only. So this is a label style. We need to include this label style in order to make it in a inline form rather than this listed form. Okay, Then we have radio items as well. You can select a radio button accordingly. So these are various core components associated with the Plotly dash. Okay. So let's move on quickly to our Python file, which we created in the previous video, right? So we created this Python file, right? And we created this particular web dashboard where we included two graphs. One graph was this and another one was this, right? So we will be adding our core component called checkbox in this particular code only. So we will be kind of extending this further to provide some interactivity on our dashboard. Okay, so this is the earlier code. Now what I'm going to do is, so below this h1 tag, I will add the checkbox related code. Okay, so I just copy pasted it from one of my Python file. Okay, so this is the code for it. Okay, so as you can see here, so there is a HTML or div tag here, and inside that we have paragraph tag. Okay, and then we have a core component called checklist. So if you can see, there is a checklist item, there is the ID, option, values, label style. I will be explaining this in a little bit. Okay, so essentially what I'm trying to do here is, so below this h1 tag, which is a header tag, I just included this code. Okay, the HTML code. So first of all, I created div tag, and inside that div tag there is one more div tag which I created, and inside that there is a paragraph tag. Okay, which is telling you choose the item. So this is kind of a text which is telling you what kind of item you need to choose. So there are three items: bread, milk, and sugar. So there is an ID associated with this checklist. Okay, and then this was our usual code, right? Which we created early in the earlier video, and then after that we will create a include a callback function here in the last. Okay, before this app.run server code. Okay, so where we are running the application. So before this we will just include our callback. Okay, so for the sense of brevity, let me create some spaces. So here I will be adding, so before this code I will be adding our callback function. Okay, so this is the code. So I'm just copy pasting it from one of my file. Okay, so basically I created an application where I utilize this interactivity, so I'm just copying the code from there. So you can see there is a callback here, right? So inside this callback, okay, I'm just kind of utilizing these values. So there is a dependencies.output, there is an input, okay, and then we have a function called update graph, right? So let me explain every detail of these two pieces of code which I included. So basically what I did is, so in this callback basically returns. In fact, let me explain the components of this checklist first. Okay, so this is a checklist which we have defined, and first parameter in this is ID, right? Which we are referring for providing the inputs. Okay, and the second one is this option parameter. Okay, which consists of dictionary of labels which our users can see on the screen, and it's basically has its associated values as well. So these are the values associated with each of these labels. So these will be visible on the screen. So if I, instead of Brad, if I type, let us say BD, okay, so this particular value will be visible on the screen or on the web page. Okay, so let me keep it Brad only, and then there is a value associated with this particular label. Okay, the third one is values, which is basically this one. Third one is values, which is basically pre-selected. Okay, and this is pre-selected when our app starts. Okay, and the label style, which is the fourth one, is label style depicts inline block to show these values side by side rather than showing it in a listed form, which I already told you earlier. So right, and so this basically is a code which governs how we need to show the values, these particular values on the screen, whether in a listed form or inline. So we want to show it inline, that's why I have included this particular label style code. Okay, this I will explain in later videos, because this code is basically related to Bootstrap. Okay, and Bootstrap is a framework associated with the styling of the web page. Okay, so this code is associated with the Bootstrap, which I'm going to cover in the later video. So I'm going to explain this later on. Okay, but just for your information, this is a Bootstrap code. Okay, essentially styling pages, web pages. Okay, now moving on to the callback, which is this particular piece of code. So here you can see there is an output. Okay, and then there is an input. Output is a graph. Okay, so basically this callback returns output as a graph in the form of a figure, which was defined here. Okay, so in the form of a figure, which is defined here. So this dash graph is nothing but a ID of this graph, this particular graph. Okay, so here you can see the ID of this graph is dash graph. Okay, so I have included here, and the input here is so in the input section we can see that input is a checklist where we select the values like bread, milk and sugar, and it has been represented by ID associated with this checklist, which is this ID. Okay, so this is the ID. You can see the checklist ID, item list. We are referring this ID here. Okay, so whenever we select a value in the input section, which is checklist represented by ID, then our output graph will be dynamically changes, right? So moving on, so this callback always runs whenever an action is triggered. Okay, and this function called update graph, okay, is called every time this callback initializes itself, right? So this function should always be under callback. This update graph function should always be under callback. Okay, so here in this I actually initialized a list called data, and this is the list called data, and I'm appending. So here you can see this code, appending data.append. So I'm appending this particular dictionary, okay, into this list. Okay, so basically this dictionary of list based on the selector we are choosing, which is bread or milk or sugar. So here we have put a condition, kind of a condition, that if bread, which is one of the value given in the item list, in selector, okay, then append these x values and y values, and the type of graph should be bar and the name should be bread. Similarly, we have put a if condition for milk. Okay, so for the three values we are checking the condition that if bread, then the x and y values should be this, and the type of graph should be bar. Similarly for milk and sugar. Okay, and then the figure, which is nothing but a layout of this graph, contains the data which it is taking from here, okay, based on these values, and then the layout, the title should be item graph, x-axis should be a dictionary values, kind of title is, let us say, keep it x-axis, this should be y-axis. So kind of we are providing the attributes of a particular layout, graph layout. Title font, okay, this is the font Calibri, size is 20, color is this, hexa value, then similarly for y-axis also, right? Okay, so now let's run this code. Let's save this code, okay, and we will run this code now. So let me open a command line, and our Python file name was py-, so let's run python py-.py. okay, let's run it. Perfect. So now copy this particular link and paste it in the browser. Okay, so let me paste it in the browser. Perfect. Now you can see here, choose item, which is a paragraph tag, and here you can see the 3 values, right? So these are nothing but the checklist values which we have mentioned here, right, in the option section, right? Okay, and as you can see, there are 3 values here: bread, milk, and sugar. Here's the legend. And if you let us say, so right now all the 3 values are selected, so that's why you are seeing 3 different types of bar graphs. Okay, so let me unselect this bread, so you can see that bread has gone out of this legend as well as from the graph. Let me unselect the sugar value as well, so now you can see that the values of milk only, right? Okay, perfect. Now once again, if you select this sugar, the sugar values will also come here. You can see that title as well here, and if you select the bread once again, you will see the bread values as well, right? And similarly for the legend as well. And here you can see the x-axis and y-axis labels, and the color is changed according to the color values given here, right? So color values given here, so these are colors associated by this. Okay, and since we have all provided the data here in the if condition for all the 3 values, so we can basically, what we can do is we can remove this. Okay, so we can basically remove this graph value. So basically, if we delete this particular section, so basically this much piece of code you can delete. You can keep the ID, because we need to obviously refer this ID later here, because we want to plot this graph, right? So since the data is provided in the below section here, right, so you can delete this data here. So if you delete this, okay, and save the file once again and rerun this, okay, so basically refreshing the web page. So if you refresh, okay, so I refreshed again, there was some intermittent issue, so I refreshed again, and you can see the graph is still plotted. So I removed the values from here, just kept the ID, because obviously we need to refer the ID here, right here, so that's fine. And I just taken out the values, the data from there, because we are already providing the data here, right? So folks, this is it for this video, and to conclude, we learned about how to add callbacks to make this web dashboard interactive, that is adding core components like checkbox and then making the graph reactive to basically change the graph when we select one of the checkboxes. Now here is today's question. Are you finding these Plotly dash related videos useful? Please let me know so that I can get some motivation to add new videos. Okay. And if and if you are watching this video and you are not already a subscriber to our channel, then consider clicking that little subscribe button. And in case you have already subscribed, then click on bell icon to receive the notifications whenever I will release the new video. So thanks for hanging out with us, guys. I will be covering next topic in the upcoming video, so keep on watching. Thank you.